Vault of the Forgotten. Part 1. The Signal. High above the abandoned Earth, the city of Arkvale floated like a fractured halo in low orbit, its edges shimmering with the last breath of a dying sun. 2 centuries had passed since the Great Departure, when humanity fled a collapsing biosphere and left its home planet to spin alone in the void. Arkvale was supposed to be temporary, a stopgap civilization. Instead, it became permanent and sterile. Inside a dusty observatory module tucked along the city's edge, Clara Jennings, a 17-year-old data apprentice with a knack for defiance, sat hunched over an old signal array. She wasn't supposed to be there. She never was supposed to be anywhere unsupervised, not with a father like Admiral Jonathan Jennings, head of Interstellar Recon. But curiosity, in Clara's world, wasn't a flaw. It was her compass. She adjusted the frequency dial and flinched when the console crackled to life. A distorted waveform lit the monitor, a signal. Structured. Repeating. Not rogue static. It was intelligent. Someone, or something, was talking. Her interface attempted auto-translation. The waveform pulsed like a heartbeat. Then, like a chant. Then, words. Not English. Not any modern dialect. It was ancient Latin. Fragments translated across the visor screen. The gate is not closed. Memory remains. Clara's heart thudded. She stared at the waveform again. This wasn't just a message. It was a remnant. A ghost from Earth. Part 2, The Whisper Vault. Clara knew one thing: if she reported the signal, it would disappear into classified archives. Her father's department would quarantine the discovery, and she'd never see it again. She needed someone outside the system. Late that evening, Clara snuck through Arkvale's outer ring, the perimeter where data historians and analog hobbyists lived in quiet defiance of the city's sterile tech culture. She found herself in front of a half-rusted hatch labeled Dr. Everett Thorne, exoanthropologist retired. He had been her childhood tutor. Arcane. Brilliant. Slightly paranoid. She knocked 3 times. The hatch creaked open, revealing a tangled maze of shelves, tapes, manuscripts, and blinking devices that shouldn't still work. "Clara," Thorne said, squinting. "Did you finally get bored of sanitized history feeds?" She handed him the visor. Thorne lowered it onto his eyes and fell silent. A long, unnerving silence. Latin script. Classical. Possibly ecclesiastical. Not used on Earth in over 100 years. And this waveform, he traced its pulse on the monitor. It's embedded with memory strings. Clara frowned. Like archived data? No. More like experimental fragments. Thoughts. Sensory bursts. Feelings captured in code. Thorne gestured toward a dusty panel behind him. We called them whisper vaults. Experimental constructs meant to preserve conscious thought digitally. Most were shut down after the Arkvale migration. They were seen as unethical. Why? Because they could remember what we wanted to forget. Clara's pulse quickened. This signal, it's coming from Earth. From what remains of a vault. Thorne's voice turned grave. Not just any vault. From one tied to human legacy. Your family's legacy. Part 3, The Name Below the Dust. The name Jennings wasn't supposed to be in any of Earth's archives. At least, not in the way Thorne described it. Clara leaned over the cracked console as he decrypted the data strand tucked inside the waveform. A name appeared, faded, misaligned, and then sharpened. Dr. Elias Jennings, Whisper Vault Architect, Phase 1. Clara felt her breath stall. He was part of the foundational team? Thorne nodded, adjusting the aging interface lenses. Not just part of it. He designed the first vault prototype before ethical bans shut everything down. She couldn't reconcile the 2 sides. Her father, Admiral Jennings, had always taught her that memory was useful only when controlled. Curated. The Jennings name was tied to discipline, not dangerous ideas. Did Dad ever mention Elias? Thorne sighed. He erased him. Clara returned home with fire under her skin. She paced her room, replaying parts of the signal, running simulations, searching for emotional cues hidden in its folds. The vault wasn't just emitting echoes, it was learning, adapting. That night, her father entered without knocking. "Your signal work has drawn attention." Clara turned slowly. "Why did you hide Elias Jennings?" A pause. Then, "Because he believed we were more than data. That memory was sacred. That even emotion had structure, a code we could preserve. He was my uncle. And he was dangerous." "Dangerous how?" "He thought you could replicate a soul." Clara's hands trembled. "But what if he succeeded?" Admiral Jennings stepped closer. His eyes, always steel, softened. "Then Earth may hold more ghosts than graves." Part 4, Descent into Silence. Permission denied. That was the response Clara received every time she tried to requisition a descent shuttle. Earth was still listed as a restricted zone, with travel permitted only to security operatives or artifact retrieval teams. So she found another way. 3 days later, under the cover of Arkvale's artificial eclipse cycle, Clara boarded a maintenance pod used for waste orbit checks. She modified the navigation code, replacing its return protocol with custom descent coordinates fed directly from the signal's source. Her heart raced. Not from fear, but from the aching truth that had begun to swell inside her. She wasn't going to Earth for answers. She was going home. The pod's surface burned red as it pierced the exosphere. Clara braced herself, feeling the thin hull groan. Then, silence. A soft thud. And the first sound she had never expected. Wind. Earth was breathing. The landing site was an overgrown basin surrounded by collapsed data towers and skeletal solar arrays. Clara stepped out, visor activated, signal tracking engaged. The Whisper Vault was buried beneath a structure once known as the Orion Monastery, a place where Elias Jennings had lived during the final years before the Great Departure. Clara found the entrance, shattered stone steps leading into a chasm. Inside, the temperature dropped. Her visor flickered. Then, illumination. Rows of pulse beacons lit up, responding to her presence. And there it was. A translucent cylinder filled with amber light and swirling data filaments like strands of a memory in motion. Vault activated. Memory relay engaged. The chamber trembled. From the center of the vault rose a figure, not a body, but a projection. Elias Jennings, young, clear-eyed, radiant in clarity. "If you're seeing this," he said, voice soft and unwavering, "you carry the legacy. You were born not to forget, but to remind." Clara felt tears edge into her visor. This vault doesn't hold data. It holds feeling. Every emotion I believed could outlive bone. Love. Regret. Faith. The notion that who we are must be remembered not in algorithms, but in awe. His image began to fade. "You are not a child of the stars, Clara. You are a child of Earth. And she remembers you." Part 5, The Memory Orchard. Clara sat cross-legged in front of the vault's glowing core. Her interface flickered with translucent overlays, emotional glyphs, sensory archives, and fragments labeled echoes. Each echo was more than a message, it was a preserved moment of someone's life. She selected one labeled the orchard. Suddenly, her visor dimmed. The room shifted. When it lit again, Clara was standing in a simulation, a sun-drenched orchard with golden light spilling through trees that no longer existed. A child's laughter rippled through the air. A memory. She saw Elias Jennings, young, vibrant, bending to examine a fallen apple. Then the scene paused. The projection turned, looked directly at Clara, and smiled. This was the last place I remembered joy. The simulation shimmered. Then it changed. Next came a hospital hallway. Clinical. Tense. A woman, Elias's sister, arguing with a technician. "You can't save someone by trapping them in digital amber. ***, I'm not saving," Elias whispered. "I'm remembering." Back in the vault chamber, Clara took a shaky breath. The vault wasn't just a data archive. It was a vessel of human essence, love, grief, longing. She scrolled to a folder marked Clara, initiated. Her pulse quickened. How could the vault know her name? Opening the folder, she was immersed in a montage of fragmented simulations, moments she didn't recognize, yet felt deeply. A hand on a piano. A walk by a frozen lake. A whispered prayer over flickering candlelight. These weren't her memories. But they were hers, inherited, embedded through lineage and signal binding. The final entry was marked choice. Legacy is not what you inherit. It's what you revive. And below it, a system prompt. Activate memory seed. Warning, activation will initiate Earth restoration protocol. Clara stood frozen. One tap, and Earth would begin a recovery process, integrating vault simulations into real-world architecture. The past would reshape the present. But it would mean breaking Arkvale's hold. Her father's authority. Everything she knew. Her hand hovered over the prompt. Then, she pressed it. The vault bloomed. Part 6, Echoes of Awakening. The moment Clara activated the memory seed, the chamber flooded with a hum, low, resonant, ancient. Data filaments twisted upward like strands of light rising to greet the stars. Outside, the Earth responded. In the stratosphere, satellites once thought lost blinked back to life, their dormant systems reignited by the Vault's restoration protocol. Echo stations in abandoned cities began transmitting location beacons. AI sensors buried beneath centuries of ash lit up with bursts of old languages and emotional matrices. Across the planet, silence unraveled. Clara stood inside the vault as a soft wind curled through the chamber. Her visor lit up with messages from nodes around the world. Recollection sequence initiated. Vault 9, Kyoto, active. Vault 4, Casablanca, emotional integrity restored. She opened a feed to Arkvale. Her father's voice came through, crackling but clear. "What did you do?" Clara steadied her breath. "I reminded the Earth we're still here." A long pause. "There are memories that were buried for a reason. Then let them surface and decide their own worth." Outside the vault, Clara wandered through overgrown stone ruins. Nature had tangled with old tech roots wrapped around memory nodes, moss brushing against glass panels. She touched a vine-covered terminal, and it responded with a whisper. "Hello, Clara." The voice wasn't her father's. It wasn't Elias's. It was a collective simulation, the memory core speaking through thousands of emotional echoes. "Do you wish to speak to someone you've never met, but always known?" Clara hesitated. Then, yes. A shimmer. From the vault, an image formed. Not a ghost. Not a file. Her great-grandmother, Clara Jennings, composer, poet, and dreamer. The figure stepped forward, eyes gleaming with emotional fragments recovered through generations. "You carry us with grace," Eleanor said. "You are the future's echo, and the past's reply." Clara's chest ached, not from loss, but from the sheer weight of connection. For once, memory didn't feel like a tomb. It felt like a bridge. Part 7, The Remembrance Accord. As dawn rose over the once-abandoned valley, the Earth began speaking again, not in one voice, but in millions. The vaults, now synchronizing across continents, emitted low-frequency pulses that stirred biological systems, unearthing ancestral imprints buried deep within neural codes. People across Arkvale and the scattered outer colonies awoke with dreams they never lived. Memories from lives before theirs. Music they didn't know they knew. Tears shed for faces they'd never met. In Arkvale's central chamber, the High Council convened in urgent assembly. Some viewed the restoration as a breach of privacy, an uncontrolled resurrection of emotional chaos. Others called it a miracle, humanity's return to soulfulness. Clara, summoned back through private channel, appeared before the council not as a data apprentice, but as a witness of memory. Her father stood beside her, both pride and fear layered across his stern features. Councilwoman Ray began. "Clara Jennings, you initiated a global relay without authorization. The memory accord was deactivated for a reason. You destabilized our psychological equilibrium." Clara's reply was quiet but unflinching. "I didn't destabilize anything. I restored our foundation. We weren't built on silence. We were built on stories." She reached for her visor and projected live feeds from Earth. A child painting with memories of a grandmother who played violin, an elderly man reciting poetry once thought extinct, a teenager singing lullabies in a forgotten dialect. We lost depth trying to protect stability. But depth is what made us human. The council recessed. The restoration continued. Back on Earth, Clara wandered deeper into vault corridors newly opened by the planetary network. One passage led to a garden, synthetically grown but seeded from historical DNA. There, a new vault stood. Unused. Untitled. Its prompt read, "Begin your archive." Clara hesitated. Then whispered, "Yes." She began recording not data, but emotion. Her awe. Her ache. Her hope. To the ones who come later, the past is not your prison. It's your compass. Choose with love. Remember with courage. And walk knowing you are never alone, not in grief, and not in wonder. The vault sealed itself, shimmering with clarity. Clara turned to the rising sun. Earth, at last, had begun to remember not only where it had been, but where it could go.